I remember Squabab. That was from the memoirs of William Tecumseh Sherman. Others remembered Squabab by different names and attitudes. Their stories and his influence mark a distinct and memorable part of California and Western American history. Others remembered Derby, otherwise known as John Phoenix, Ulysses S. Grant, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain, and Abraham Lincoln. Grant and Derby were in business together in California before Grant left the Army. Mark Twain called John Phoenix the first of the great modern humorists. And Lincoln, what would he have said on April the 15th, 150 years ago this month? Oh, how I wish I had known John Phoenix. Better yet, I wish I had stayed reading his book, The Squabab Papers, that day in April 1865, specifically April 14th, 150 years ago this month. The book had me in a humorous mood. I resisted coming down from my quarters to an early dinner. My staff kept insisting that I come down, to my discomfort. Finally, I acquiesced. The early dinner preceded a date with the theater that night. I could have done without the comedy of Our American Cousin, 150 years ago this month. The last book that Abraham Lincoln, the book he was reading at the time of his assassination, was by John Phoenix, The Squabab Papers, that had just been published in 1865. Now, my involvement came not from his humor, but from his map, called the Derby map, and his topographical notes about the map. His reports led me to ask, who is this guy? Derby wrote, this is about, that I read, the results of our examination was the selection of a site about half a mile above the store at Johnson's Rancho on Bear Creek. This point possessed all of the merits of the others examined and was comparatively free from objectionable circumstances, being at the foot of the Sierra Nevada slope. The reserve could be made to include a sufficient space of high ground, not subject to the periodical overflows of the creek, for building the necessary barracks for the troops, while the rich bottomland bordering the creek on either side afforded an excellent opportunity for gardening purposes. A grove of fine oaks answers the purpose of shade for an encampment during the summer months, while the hills in the vicinity are covered with trees, affording a sufficiency of wood for fires and of logs for houses. The summits of the adjacent hills crop out with a species of sandstone, which, if quarried, would answer admirably for the construction of chimneys and foundations for buildings. Its proximity to the rancho is also an advantage ensuring a constant supply of fresh meat, and we found the water of the creek at all times healthy, cool, and pleasant. What writing? What remarkable writing? The result was Camp Far West. Now, what about California? Here's the scoop. It involves General Bennett Riley. He also knew Derby. You know Fort Riley in Kansas? Named after General Bennett Riley. What would General Bennett Riley have said? Derby. Yes, I remember him and knew him. Despite his faults, he was one of the most remarkable men I have ever known. What was remarkable could probably fill many books. However, let me recollect my associations with him. Let's see now. I might have met him before I was a colonel, and he was a young lieutenant. No, that cannot be, because he didn't show up until Veracruz in the Mexican War. Actually, I don't think we met until the Battle of Cerro Gordo in April, another April event, April of 1847. It could have been at one of Scott's, that's General Winfield Scott's senior commander's battle plan meetings prior to that battle. I don't remember who all were there, but I was really surprised that Scott included these two young officers, so different in demeanor, yet so brilliant in intuitive understanding of battleground priorities. One of those officers was Derby. The other officer was a young man by the name of Lee, I think. Yeah, Lee. I think his full name was Robert E. Lee, a captain. My health was bad after my service in California, so I never did hear about whatever happened, what came to him, this Robert E. Lee. But about Derby, I do know. You see, Derby showed up in my command in California after I was promoted to general, probably due to Lee and Derby's reconnaissance behind General Santa Anna's lines at the Battle of Cerro Gordo. Cerro Gordo was the key battle of that war, and General Santa Anna should have surrendered then, but he prolonged the war for some time after that battle. He lost his artificial leg that he was wearing and his carriage, and he escaped from that battle on a mule. That was in Santa Ana. And 3,000 men were prisoners after that battle, and that was the key battle of the Mexican-American War. Anyway, I get distracted. Anyway, I was sent to California, where I was named Governor General of the Military Command of California. And here comes Derby after recovering from the wounds he received at Cerro Gordo. Uncompromising as ever, but a bright addition to my command. My staff was better served by having him associated with it. You see, I, as this General Riley and the command of the military command, I commanded a survey team of the gold mining districts in 1849. Derby accompanied me and completed my record by mapping our course through the gold country and writing a report on that map. Clear, concise, accurate reporting was done without the mischief that he was certainly capable of. And in June of 1849, we were about to embark on that gold survey. I did something that turned out to be mighty important for California. This is General Riley, as the military governor general, proclaimed a call for the California Constitutional Convention that set up the legislature for the state of California. You see, the United States Congress should have done that, but they ended their session in 1849, leaving that chore undone. Probably never happened again after 1849, but I don't know. I guess you could say that without Lee and Derby's action at Cerro Gordo that led to my promotion, California would have been delayed in being part of the United States. So back to Derby. He was a big help in the mining survey, such a big help that it was a no-brainer to pick him for the survey of the Sacramento Valley. He was to head up and be in charge of the survey. Yes, it was unfortunate that Lieutenant Warner had been killed by the Mountain Indians, but Derby was well qualified and skilled to take over that command. In conclusion, a small poem about him. From the top of Cerro Gordo to the Bay of San Francisco, to the valleys of the Sacramento, and then to the river Colorado. To the sands of San Diego came the map-making genius and underappreciated hero that was a part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, unsung and grudgingly mentioned notoriety rather than familiarity, a legend to some, and the pair of soldiers on which to stand to others. We salute George Horatio Derby. Thank you very much.